Why Hitler declared war on America. Part 1. The Trap of Pearl Harbor. On December 7, 1841, the world changed. As the smoke rose from the wreckage of the Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt faced a terrifying political reality. America was furious, but its anger was laser-focused on Japan. At that moment, the United States was still deeply isolationist. Despite Roosevelt's personal loathing of the Nazi regime, he was politically paralyzed. Polls showed that nearly 75% of Americans opposed entering the war in Europe. FDR knew that Hitler was the greater threat to global freedom, but he had no legal or popular mandate to send American boys to fight in the trenches of France or the deserts of Africa. He needed a miracle, or a massive mistake from his enemy. On December 11, 1941, Adolf Hitler gave him exactly what he needed. Part 2. The Gloom of the Wolf's Lair. To understand why Hitler made what historians call the most insane decision in history, you have to look at where he was. He wasn't in a grand palace in Berlin. He was in the Wolf's Lair, a dank, gloomy field headquarters in East Prussia. And he was panicking. Just days earlier, on December 2nd, the German invasion of the Soviet Union had ground to a halt. They were within sight of the Kremlin's onion domes, but General Winter had arrived. The temperature had plummeted to 30 degrees below zero. German tanks were frozen in the snow, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers were suffering from frostbite and exhaustion. For the first time, the unstoppable Wehrmacht had been turned back. Part 3. A choice without a reason. When news of Pearl Harbor reached the Wolf's Lair, Hitler was delighted, not because he had planned it, but because it provided a distraction from the disaster in Russia. Here is the mystery. Hitler had no obligation to join Japan. The tripartite pact between Germany, Italy, and Japan only required them to help one another if they were attacked. Since Japan was the aggressor at Pearl Harbor, Hitler could have remained neutral. He could have let the United States exhaust its resources fighting a one-front war in the Pacific, leaving him free to focus all of Germany's might on crushing the Soviet Union. Instead, without consulting his generals or his allies, he stepped onto the podium at the Reichstag. Part 4. The Speech That Ended the Reich. In a frenzied, deranged address, Hitler unleashed a diatribe against Roosevelt, calling him a stooge of global conspiracies. Then he did the unthinkable. He formally declared war on the United States. It was a decision born of pure megalomania. Hitler underestimated American industrial power. He viewed Americans as a mongrel people, soft and incapable of real warfare. He believed that by declaring war, he would embolden the Japanese to tie down the American Navy, giving him a few more months to settle the Eastern question. He was wrong. Dead wrong. Part 5. The Germany First irony. By declaring war, Hitler handed FDR the greatest gift a leader could receive: the freedom to move. The political straitjacket of isolationism was shredded. The sublime irony of this decision is that even though Japan had struck the first blow, the Allies immediately adopted a Germany-first strategy. The vast industrial might of the United States, the arsenal of democracy, was now legally and enthusiastically unleashed against the Third Reich. Because of that single speech on December 11th, the countdown to the fall of Berlin began. Conclusion. The ultimate contrast. The weight of this decision can be seen in how the war ended for the two aggressors. Within 41 months of his declaration, Hitler would be dead by suicide in the ruins of his bunker, his empire erased from the map. In contrast, the leader of the nation that actually attacked America, Emperor Hirohito of Japan, would remain on his throne for decades, eventually dying peacefully in his palace in 1989. History is filled with mysteries, but the mystery of Hitler's declaration of war is perhaps the most consequential. It was the moment a dictator's arrogance overrode his strategy, turning a localized conflict into a global crusade that would eventually ensure his own destruction.